Hi, this is Polly Balint with Cherokee Talk Radio on Grace Radio 102.9 FM. And I'm happy to be here today, and I have a wonderful guest, and her name is Nancy Tucker. And Nancy is the founder director of Serenade Heights, a transitional housing that bridges the gap between homelessness and permanent housing for single mother families. Welcome, Nancy.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is great. It's so much fun to talk for me. I get such joy out of this, of hearing how God uses his people in the city and the county. And he's given you quite a passion for helping single mothers.
Yes, he has.
How did you get to this point of being the founder of this Serenade Heights?
Well, it goes back to my own testimony, which doesn't all vision go back to that. Well, I was going along my life just being a housewife with and a mom of two children, and just enjoying life and doing a lot of volunteer work and things like that. A stay-at-home mom. In 1995, my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer. And within 2 years, we fought that battle very hard. But at the end of that 2 years, in 1997, he passed away. And I was left to be a single mom with two kids, 13 and 10, and just was kind of out of nowhere thrust into this experience of being in a club I didn't want to be in. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I've lived that life for 2 or 3 years, and I have to say, and there's a reason I'm saying this, I was extremely blessed. I had a wonderful church family around me. I had people that embraced me, and it, as far as being a single mom, it was not as bad as a lot of the experiences that I've lived through now with the moms.
The body of Christ was acting like the body of Christ.
Absolutely. And so they were taking care of their widows. And so I was, ended up having to go back to work, ended up back at church as an employee. They hired me. That was a blessing in and of itself, another whole story. But and then about a year after that, I remarried. And during the time that I was working in the counseling ministry at our church, I saw a lot of divorced women that came in, or women going through a divorce. One in particular was a very good friend of mine, and I just sort of saw the difference between how the church, through no fault of their own, took care of me as opposed to how they were taking care of these women that came in. There was a whole different mindset, and it really sort of ruffled my feathers a little bit. And so fast forward to about a year after that, I was asked by our singles pastor to teach a Sunday school class for single mothers. And I said no 4 times. I had one, never really taught a Sunday school class, a weekly class. 2, I had just gotten remarried. I thought that was a strange fit. And I just really didn't want to. I don't know how else to say that. I just didn't want to. And I said no 4 times, and he kept coming after me. And finally, God just got a hold of my heart and said, if you're not going to do it, who is? And so and he says that to me a lot. So I started teaching that class 16 years ago, and I'm still teaching that class every Sunday. And in those 16 years, I have come across, just so many beautiful women, wonderful stories, a lot of heartbreak, heartache. But one of the 2 things that I see that are the hardest are housing, affordable housing, and childcare, and then just the heartbreak of feeling like there's no point in dreaming again. And so
it's hopelessness, isn't it?
It is hopelessness. It's being in a rut and doing the same thing every day just to survive and just to put food on the table for your child. And if you're one step away, a crisis away from being homeless or being really in a hard place. So about 5 years ago, I was, and especially when the economy was kind of really hurting, I had I had a time where I had like 4 moms that were looking for housing. And we were scouring the community and there was nothing. And I was just heartbroken. And the things that were available were kind of scary. The only other really thing that was available in our community was for domestic violence. And none of these moms had come from that. They just were in a bad place. And so I just was heartbroken. I literally cried out to God, and a good friend of mine with lots of godly wisdom looked at me and said those words again of, if not you, who? Mm-hmm. And that's when we started the process of looking into how can we provide some sort of support, provide housing to get these moms to a better place and understand that God values them and has a plan for their life. So we started that 5 years ago, and that's where we're here right now today. So.
Well, this just considering what you're doing and considering talking to you today and hearing more about Serenade Heights, the verse James 1:27 came to my mind because I knew part of it, but I didn't know exactly. I had to look it up. Mm-hmm. And it's religion that is pure and undefiled before God, the Father, is this: to visit orphans and widows in their afflictions, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. And that's Serenade Heights.
It is
You're
Serenade
the hands
Heights.
and the heart of Jesus Christ.
And I say to a lot of people that having been a widow and a single mom, and some of the women I work with are from other areas besides divorce, but I honestly believe that the widow of the Bible, if Jesus were here today, he would look at our single moms because, as a widow, I was very well taken care of with Social Security and life insurance and those kind of things that single moms that come from divorce or, unplanned pregnancies, that they don't have those options. They're just out there, totally on their own. And so that's the widow of the Bible. She was destitute. She had no one to take care of her, especially if she had no children or no sons. So I really believe with all my heart that if Jesus were here, he would command us to also take care of any single mom. I
think I totally agree. Yes. I think, and also in the times that we're living in, and just several generations, divorce is there's still a death of a marriage and a relationship. There's usually abandonment issues. So there is financial problems, and that
there's no grief.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree. I think it's single moms are the same as widows to me. Well, and I believe to God.
And unfortunately, the statistics are going up, even in Cherokee County, in our county. And this is a few years old, but almost a quarter, 22.1% of the households are run by women alone. And so when you consider that about a third of those are living below poverty level and can't afford the average market rate rent, it's a hard place to be. And our society needs to step up, our community needs to step up and see what they can do to help these ladies.
Yes. If the church is being the church, we're not supposed to be relying on the government anyway. No. We're supposed to be helping each other.
And that's our goal, is to keep these women from having to be dependent on not just the government, but even child support, because only a quarter of these women ever even see child support. And if they do, it's not what they're awarded. It's the average is about $400 a month, which if you have more than one child, there's no way you can survive on that.
So it's a transitional housing. So people can't just drop in. You have to go through a process.
Yes. It is supportive transitional housing, and what that means is we are not just crisis housing.
That's an important point.
It is an important point. And we need crisis housing. Mm-hmm. I would love to see crisis housing because it would help me. But that is not what we do. What we provide is housing for the benefit of them to be able to take a little breather, step back, and decide what it is they want to be when they grow up. What is it that you dreamed about doing that your dreams got squashed in the middle of life? And to say, can we help you go back to school? Can we help you find training for the job you're already in? Can we find resources in the community for you that will help you get to a better place and live out what God intended for you in your life? And it's amazing the transformation that happens when you just start to believe in someone, and they have to learn to trust you. But as they do, it's amazing to see what they can accomplish. And so it's supportive in three main areas. We have a life coach that works with the women every week. They meet weekly, probably phone call every day, but they meet weekly. And then we have the housing component where we actually help them financially. With housing, we find resources for childcare and help them with utilities and those kind of things. And then there's the component of community where we put a mentoring team of people around that mom and that family to be there for them. So many single moms get isolated, especially if they're unchurched. And even if they're in church, they get isolated because they don't have time to build those relationships. So we kind of force relationships, but what we found is God always puts the right people with the right mom. And so that's been a huge blessing to watch also, is to see these community of believers wrap around this family and just show them the love of Jesus. So do that James 1:27.
Yeah. So you have so much in place then. You have everything in place, and God is sending, I would imagine he's sending you lots of women.
Oh, more than we can take, unfortunately.
The need is great, isn't it?
The need is great, and the dollars are few. I don't want to say few. We've been very blessed. And God has paced us well. We've had 11 moms come through the program so far, and the program is 6 months to 2 years, and the mom re-signs a contract every 6 months with us. So she can choose to not come back, or we can choose to not ask her back, unfortunately. That's only not happened very often, but she can choose to leave when she feels like she's ready, or if we both decide that she's in a good place to leave. So 6 months to 2 years. And in the last 5 years, we've had 11 moms and 21 children come through our program. And we have just seen some amazing things happen with the moms that have, especially the moms that have stayed with us for the 2 years.
Can you think of some stories of the ladies?
Oh, yes. Well, one of our first moms, her name's Natalie. She came to us. I had known her for years through my Bible study that I teach. She had been sleeping in her car when she came to us. I did not know that until one day in Sunday school, and she kind of told me. I was like, what? So we had not been going for very long as far as housing, and I said, we're going to make this work. And we found a basement apartment for her. Anyway, she had a lot of emotional baggage coming in. She had a lot of things that were going on with her kids and custody and things like that. But through working with her life coach, I've just seen her blossom as far as, and like I said, I had known her for years. She was a believer, but just to watch her totally turn her life over to Jesus and trust him with whatever came was just something glorious to behold. But her lifelong dream was to be a gemology broker, a gemstone broker, diamond and gemstones. And she had started that when she was married. She had it's a 5-certificate program. And it's a private school that you have to go. It's very expensive. She had already gotten the first certificate when she was married, and then her divorce happened and she was unable to continue and couldn't afford it. And so as we, looked at her dream, that's what she told us, and we were all like, okay, we don't know anything about that. So she did all the research for us, presented it. We looked for resources. She applied to 2 different places to get scholarships for that program. And long story short, she had been in vocational rehab for a disability for years. And they told her, there's no way they're going to okay this scholarship. They've never done a private school like this. And we were like, well, we're just going to try and trust God that if that's what he wants, he'll make it happen. And she was standing in the middle of Bath and Body Works and got a phone call from the vocational rehab people who were screaming. They took it. They accepted it. And she got a full ride for the whole 4 more certificates that she needed, the 4 that were left, even as much as paying for her labs and her travel to go take the tests. I mean, everything. It was just a miracle. We were all just astounded that God had done this for her in her life, and it was so much evidence to her that God cared about every little detail of her life. That's been a huge one for all of us to see. And it was a testimony to the people at vocational rehab as well, because she told them, I trusted God for this, and he gave it to me. And so it was amazing.
The fruit on the Serenade Heights tree is prospering.
It is.
Because you all have had to deny yourselves to do this, because this sounds like an awful lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of energy to do this. And yet you've done this work and you're doing this work, and God is showing you, look at the fruit. You have been faithful. I'm going to show you something so that you won't grow weary in well doing. That's what I'm hearing. It
is a lot of work, but and there's some heartbreak in it. I mean, it's not always fun, but it's such a blessing when you see them get it, and when you see them realize that God wants to give them the dreams of their heart, the delight of their heart, and so it's been a huge blessing for us, all of us that work there as well. So,
do you have a big staff, or how many?
No, not really. Well, there's 2 of us that run the day-to-day, and then we have a contracted life coach, and we contract a lot of our work out, our website, and things like that. But there's 2 of us mainly that run everything. And then our life coach, like I said, she's the one who actually meets with the mom every single week. And she actually wrote the curriculum we use, and Renee actually started the ministry with me 5 years ago. So she's just a huge blessing, and she's doing exactly what God has called her to do as well.
And I think you are too.
Well,
he's made it a passion.
He has made it a passion.
And that when we're doing what gives us a passion, it's not work. It's just the joy of serving.
Well, I read this. I read this quote this morning from Boyd Bailey. It says, "The vision God has placed in your heart cannot be ignored because it is His vision for you." And I thought that's such a perfect thing to think about today as I come and share, because that's not just only true in my own life, but it's what we want for these ladies. That if God has placed a vision in your life, just like Natalie, I said, if He's placed that in your life, there's a reason, and He has every ability and every resource to make it happen if that's His plan for you. And that's our ultimate goal for all these ladies to see. Our mission is for them to understand that more than anything else, more than financial success. It's to be where God wants you to be.
Right. You said you have a community of Christian women that come around your ladies.
Yes.
Where do they come from?
Well, we try the mentors that surround the ladies. We try to pull them from the church where the mom is attending, because we find that that's a great place for them to build community, obviously. But that's not always possible. So we've just gathered volunteers from different places. This is an area we always ask, if anybody's interested in just sharing life with somebody. The commitment's for 2 years, but we hope that it lasts long after the 2 years. And I think it will for most of the ladies we've seen so far. They've really come to us. We haven't really had to beat the bushes and beg anybody. They're people that just love that. A lot of them have either been where these moms are, they've been a single mom, and they want to pour back into these ladies, or they've had somebody in their family, or they just have a heart for James 1:27 of giving back to and pouring back in and serving these ladies because they deserve it. So
I think that every Christian would want to have some kind of God-given passion because for many reasons it keeps you going, but the joy of serving, the joy of seeing the fruit of your labors, because God makes it that way so that we will keep serving and we will find joy in it. We will find joy in serving Jesus Christ and his church. So that's exactly what you're doing. And so what area are you serving?
Okay, well, we have what's called scattered site housing. Right now, we have 4 homes that we rent just because God wanted us there. We're over in the Ackworth area around Lake Allatoona. We're open to being anywhere, but that's where God has us right now. We've had some housing that was over down Bell's Ferry. We've had 2 or 3 different places besides the 4 that we have now, but that's the general location. For some reason, he has us, and these are 3 and 4 bedroom homes. I get asked the question a lot of why don't you put more than one mom in a house, and I ask them if they've ever blended a family. Which I have, and if they ask that, they usually haven't. So I would say it's not conducive to what we're trying to do, and that is build self-sufficiency. And it would work, but that's not what God has shown us and opened the door for us to do. I mean, we've been blessed with a guardian angel of a landlord who rents these houses to us, and we rent them for below market rate rent. And, it's almost like extreme home makeover when they walk in the houses because this landlord decorates them and puts all this neat stuff in there for them. She finds out exactly what the mom needs and the kids need. And so it's really a sweet time when they first go in, especially for these moms who've, been homeless or sleeping on someone else's sofa or wherever, a hotel, wherever they come from. It's just amazing to experience that. It makes it all worthwhile.
That also should encourage you that God is providing for all the needs of Serenade Heights to provide for these ladies.
Oh, and he has.
Awesome.
It's been amazing from day one how he's opened doors. If I ever had an inkling of a doubt that we could do it, God would open another door. In fact, this landlord's a perfect example. I found her through a young woman who had been in my ministry, and I saw her at a women's conference, and she picked up the flyer and she said, "You need to meet my mom." And at the time, we didn't know what the next step was going to be for housing. And I just said, "Well, yeah, okay, sure." You never know. And so I called her, and I found McFarland Properties, and it was amazing, and it's been amazing since day one, and it's still going strong. It's a great partnership between the two of us, and so we're fulfilling a ministry need for her, and she's totally fulfilling one for us. So God has done things like that over and over again that just were total amazing miracles.
I'm going to have you back. We have just a little over a minute, but you have so much going on, so much God activity, I like to call it. He's just all over this, and it's just such a blessing to hear this, and it's in our own county. Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you to learn more, to know more, maybe to just help financially or help serving? How can they find you?
We're on the World Wide Web, serenadeheights.org. They can find all the information there. If they're a single mom that is curious or interested or seeking housing or just some community, we also have information on our website for them specifically that says single moms, but we do workshops every other Thursday night at New Victoria Baptist Church from 6 to 8:15, and there's free childcare and free dinner, and we would love to have them come. They can register on that same page. And they can call our offices. We have an office over in Woodstock. And
what's that number?
It is 770-733-9728. and we'd be glad to talk to them. We would love to have, we have lots of fundraisers that go on all year long. So we would love to have anybody call us and share however they want to be involved.
That's a blessing. Well, I'm glad, and I'm sure that you'll be hearing from some people. Nancy Tucker, it's been a delight and a blessing to hear all these things that are happening and the things that you're doing for the glory of God. And y'all, thank you for listening. Time is up.